Welcome to Ficom's podcast. My name is Elina Ussa. This time episode is about AI, data centers, sustainability, and how to combine the growth and sustainability together. Data centers are core infrastructure for digital services, cloud computing, and also for artificial intelligence. At the same time, there's a lot of public discussion about electricity use, emissions, and what kind of solutions we need to support the growth. Today we took this topic from both angles, from global aspect and also from the Finnish perspective. At the center of our discussion is this question, can AI be not only a driver of electricity use, but also a tool for reducing emissions? I have two great guests with me here. Adam Elman, Director of Sustainability for EMEA at Google. You are responsible for the huge area, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. You have a lot.
Plenty to keep me busy, yes.
Plenty to keep you busy. And Asta Sihvonen-Punkka, CEO of Fingrid. And Fingrid is the operator, and it operates and develops Finland's national transmission grid. And it's state-owned, half of it.
A bit more than half. So the state has just increased its share of ownership. So we are a limited company.
Because of it's a critical infrastructure and such a big influence of the Finnish society, of course.
That is correct. So there is a strategic interest from the side of the state.
Yes, that's the right wording for it. Yes. Electricity demand is growing for many reasons at the same time. For example, transportation and industry are becoming more electric. And at the same time, the whole modern society is digitalized. And especially, of course, to mention the AI that is increasing the need for computing. So this is not only a data center issue, it's part of the bigger change where energy transition is together with digital transition, and they are happening in parallel. Google has often said that your climate strategy aims both to reduce your own environmental impact, but also to help the others to reach their sustainability goals. What does this mean in practice? And how is the data centers and AI helping to reduce the environmental impact?
Fantastic. Well, firstly, thanks for inviting me here today. Nothing more I like than talking about our work on sustainability. So you're absolutely right. Our sustainability approach really has two parts to it. First of all, how do we make our own operations more sustainable? It's something that we've been focused on for many years. We're actually in our third decade of climate action. So we have ambitious goals. We call them moonshot goals, such as our ambition to be net zero by 2030. That's both for our own operations and for our value chain. And that's supported by a really ambitious goal on clean energy. So for many years, we've been buying enough clean electricity to match our own use, but we want to go even further, something we call 24/7 carbon-free energy. That means we want to source our energy locally on the grids where we operate, and we want that clean energy to be generated on an hourly basis to match our usage. Plus, we're working on a host of other sort of goals for our operations. But as you say, alongside making sure that we're managing our own footprint, we're really excited about the opportunity that AI brings in helping others. And actually, we've set a public goal in this space where we want to help others, whether that's individuals, cities, organisations, reduce a gigaton's worth of emissions every single year. And I'm sure we can get into the detail about how we're doing some of that. But I think the important thing is we're not the only ones excited about this. There's lots of research from organisations like the IEA, the International Energy Agency, more recently the Grantham Institute and Lord Nick Stern, whose research all basically says that the positive impact that AI can have for climate is going to significantly outweigh the footprint of data centers themselves. So it's a topic we're really excited about and happy to dive into some more detail.
We use this term of carbon footprint, of course, like you did here as well. Yep. But we also have this carbon handprint. as we are using when you benefit from the AI. And the problem with what I find when talking to politicians and decision makers is that we have measurements for the carbon footprint, but we don't have it for the handprint. So missing the exact numbers and saying and measurements how it is benefiting the other business. That's one of the problems that I find with this discussion. It would be so much easier to say that this is the footprint and this is the handprint, and you can see that we are really benefiting the society.
Well, it's a great point, and it's something we think about a lot. As I say, we want to reduce our own footprint, but we want to have this positive impact. And if we want to have this positive impact, we need to make sure we're measuring it so that we know if we're having that impact. So we've been working a lot on that methodology. So we know that, for example, in 2024, just 5 of our products helped others reduce 26 million tonnes worth of GHG, greenhouse gas emissions. And we've been very public in terms of our methodology, how we've gone about doing that. We've worked with others to help develop it. We're also part of broader groups in the EU, for example, to help develop these methodologies, because we want to make sure that if we're developing solutions, they are having that impact that we want. And it's not just, by the way, on terms of reducing emissions. There's a lot in terms of sort of AI in terms of climate resiliency, for example, predicting flooding or wildfires. How do we help deal with the changing climate, which is obviously impacting people and infrastructure every single day?
Do you get the critics for your methodology? Because, I mean, we should have it as an EU level, as one way to calculate.
Yeah. So deliberately we put out a lot of our methodologies because we want feedback and because we want to refine it. And so, we're in lots of dialogue on an ongoing basis around it. But I think the important thing here is it's for us, it's not that one offsets the other. We need to deal with our own operations, and we continue to focus on that. Alongside that, we're looking at how we can help others through the technology and how we help refine these models. Not so much just because we can come up with a number, because, as I say, we're genuinely interested in making sure that we're having the positive impact that we want to have. So, I would say it's a collaboration. So we do this thing working with others, bringing in expert input to help refine our work.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, it makes sense that there's, of course, this benefit as well. Why is this discussion and question so important from the Fingrid's and Finland's point of view as well?
So when you were describing the positive footprints and handprints, so this is also a very relevant point of view for Fingrid, because when looking at our role, so we are enabling the green transition, and we have seen, I would say, the very significant development when looking at the generation fleet in Finland. So last year, for example, the share of CO2-free electricity generation in Finland amounted to 96%, so which is very high. So this has been a very rapid development due to the increase in wind generation, of course, new nuclear power, Olkiluoto 3, and also solar power. Of course, there is also the thing that when we are transiting electricity, when we are building the network, so that, of course, causes CO2 emissions. So we are measuring them. So we have these science-based targets for sustainability, and we are following and reporting those. But all in all, so when looking at what we are doing, so making the grid well-functioning, giving the possibility for clean generation to connect to the network, and also then to be then able to electrify the use of energy. So that is something that reduces emissions. So I claim that the transmission infrastructure, so the transmission grid, has a very central role in this green transition and in reducing emissions. Yep. And that is one of the, I would say, the competitive advantages of Finland, and I think that we will come back to that.
Yes, it's a very important point, and it has to be repeated a few times.
Yes.
Actually. Yeah. But now that we are talking about big investments and data centers, mainly, of course, when talking about this episode here, it's the consumption of electricity in Finland. It has remained the same level for past 20 years, isn't it so?
Yes, the all-time peak dates back to 2007. Can you imagine that? So it was then 94 terawatt hours.
Yeah.
So, of course, there have been many reasons. Energy efficiency has increased, but there has been this relatively long period of time where we have had no economic growth.
Exactly, Adam. This is very important point. The consumption of the electricity has remained the same, and so the economic growth in Finland.
During the past 2 years, so there has been now a slight increase. Of course, there are factors that have reduced the use of electricity. For example, the closure of forest industry mills and that kind of things. The growth has now been due to the growth of electricity consumption, for example, in district heating, so the electric boilers, but also thanks to data centers. So these are now the two sources of the growth in consumption that we have seen in Finland. We are forecasting, of course, so that is very relevant to us, so how we need to develop our network. So we are forecasting the consumption and the generation of electricity. And our forecast now is that the consumption would approximately double in the next 10 years. And there are very good reasons for believing in that.
So, Adam, you can believe that we all have our eyes on Fingrid.
Absolutely.
So when it goes well for the Fingrid, it means the Finnish economy is growing as well.
And this sort of growth in electricity is a sort of a trend we see around the world, because increasingly everyone's looking to electrify. And a key part of that is for sustainability reasons. And data centers are a part of that. But actually, if you look at sort of the information from the IEA, the International Energy Agency, globally, data centers are actually only accounting for about a tenth of the growth. Much more of the growth is coming, and I think you mentioned this, from industry, from heating and cooling. And actually that cooling part, as the planet warms up, is increasing. From electrification of transportation, electric vehicles and what have you. So data centers are certainly part of the mix, but they're not the only part. And it's on a global basis, it's around a tenth of the growth.
Like public discussion, it's like you said, it's always talks only about the amount of electricity used. And now we mentioned already here the energy efficiency, clean electricity and long-term planning. Despite 27% increase in electricity use driven by the growth of the AI economy, Google has successfully reduced energy-related emissions from its data centers by 12%, to be very precise. How has this been possible?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so this is looking at our data from 2024, which is our last reported year. So we've been able to decouple that growth for a number of reasons. Firstly, we really focus on our hardware, and we're a full stack AI company, which means we focus on every layer of our operation, right down to the silicon, the chips that are powering AI. And actually, we develop our own chips. They're called TPUs, or tensor processing units. So these are our custom chips that are powering AI. And our latest 7th generation chip, Ironwood, is 30 times more efficient than our original generation chip. So we're getting very good at driving efficiency into our hardware. That's good for the planet. It's also good for business. Energy is a large cost base for us. So there are sort of good business reasons why we want to do this. And so again, when you take things like that and all of the other innovations we're able to put into our hardware, we've been very good at driving efficiency. To put that in perspective, compared to 5 years ago, we have 6 times more compute power per unit of energy than we had 5 years ago. So we're very good at driving that efficiency via hardware. But it's not just the hardware, it's also the software, the models that that we use. So if you take Gemini, which is our sort of core model, and actually we've done, going back to this discussion around measurement, we've done quite a lot of work putting out a methodology for how you measure the emissions. And so, for example, for a medium text prompt, we can tell you it's about the same as watching television for 9 seconds. And uses about 5 drops of water, so considerably more than some of the headlines you might read in the media. And over a 12-month period, we've been able to reduce or improve the carbon and energy efficiency by 33x and 44x. So we're very good again at driving efficiency in our models. But all of that efficiency is then backed up by this work on clean energy. And again, we've been investing in clean energy for many years. We're one of the world's largest buyers of clean energy. In 2024 alone, 8 gigawatts worth of new capacity. And as I mentioned before, we're very focused on driving that capacity locally where we operate. And actually, we're really proud of our work here in Finland. We've been investing in clean energy for many years. We have 5 power purchase agreements for onshore wind, 446 megawatts worth of clean energy that we're putting onto the grid here. That's actually more energy than we actually consume within Finland. So it really is a mixed tool bag of all the things that we can do to help drive that efficiency and then make sure it's backed up by clean energy.
May I intervene here? Because I think that what you were just describing is one of the key points. So when there are these concerns about that, whether there will be shortage of electricity or whether the prices will go up after the big investments, whether it's data centers or other new uses of electricity. So this thing that there are the investments in clean electricity generation, whether it's then through these power purchase agreements or similar, so that there is at the same time where there is assumed this increase in consumption, so that is then linked with an increase in generation.
Yep.
Because of course the demand will grow and the use of electricity will grow. And I think that one of the big drivers for the cleaning up of the Finnish electricity generation has been this kind of principle of additionality, so that together with the investments in our electricity use, so there have been investments in clean electricity, especially onshore wind. And that is really the asset that we have in Finland.
Yeah, and for Google, it's really important that we want to be good grid citizens. So when we're turning up and we're bringing this infrastructure, we want to make sure we're bringing this additional clean energy. We want to make sure we're partnering with grid operators and the wider ecosystem. We want to make sure that we're not increasing the price for others. So, thinking really strategically about how we can be a good grid citizen wherever we operate is really fundamental to our business.
Yeah, and now when you explained all this energy efficiency history, it's surprisingly short time when it all has happened. I mean, it's developing very quickly.
It's developing very quickly, but this is something we've been working on for many years. We're in our 3rd decade of climate action. So it is developing very quickly, and the advances in AI are very rapid, which is really exciting, and the benefits that AI is bringing. But for us, it's not a new topic. It's something we've been focused on for many years. But we need to keep innovating. We need to keep figuring out how we partner with others. For example, we have invested and continued to invest very heavily in what I would call traditional clean energy, so wind and solar. But increasingly, we're having to look at advanced geothermal, advanced nuclear, grid-enhancing technologies, flexibility. So yes, we're having to innovate, but again, it's not something we do alone. It's very much in partnership with others.
And it's very important that you communicate it as well, because it seems that we all keep those old images that we have. That we have learned once from data centers, for example. But it's changing. It's not the one stereotype data centers. It's not one way of running it or having the electricity for the data center. So it's very important to communicate and bring your message to the discussion, to the public.
And on that point, no two data centers are the same.
Yes.
So, a data center that we might build in Finland is going to be very different from someone else because of a local context. What's the temperature? What is the availability of water? What is the situation on the grid? And as you say, wind is a fantastic technology here. So we have to think about this in a local context and very much make sure we're making the right decisions locally where we operate.
Yeah. When the power to be used is produced with renewables, so that are intermittent. So one of the, I would say, important features that needs to be taken into account is, as you mentioned already, the flexibility. So where to get that and how the data centers are able to provide that. So what we, for example, see from Finland, from the Finnish electricity system point of view. So the big share of intermittent renewables that we have at the moment, then we have a big share of nuclear power, and then some hydro, less compared with our Western neighbors. So we live here up in the north. We have the cold, dark winter days that can continue for many days. So then the need for flexibility and demand response and how to somehow support the system during those times is becoming more and more important.
Absolutely, and actually this became very important in 2022, 2023 in the previous energy crisis, and
when the Russian aggression war started.
Exactly, and so again, I mean, we want to be a good citizen. We recognise we have a role to play. There is a level of, data centers are not something you can just turn on and off. We have data centers are powering the economy. They're powering hospitals, businesses, governments, and what have you. But there is an element of flexibility we have. And again, we use tools such as AI to help us do that. And we very much did this in the previous energy crisis, where if a grid said to us, we're constrained, there are certain jobs that we can move to other grids or other times of the day. So, maybe encoding YouTube videos or running Google Translate models. And so we very much do that. And AI helps us do that. So we have an AI model that actually looks at what clean energy do we think is going to be generated around the world at different times of the day, what compute jobs do we want to run, and how do we shift those around to make best use of that clean energy. And we also provide, by the way, this functionality to our cloud customers. So, whether it's other companies or organizations who come and run on Google Cloud, they often have their own sustainability goals. And through a portal, they can actually say, we want to run on the cleanest grid. Can you move jobs around? So, yeah, absolutely. Although, as I say, data centers is not something you can just turn on and off. So we really need to partner with others. And there's also an aspect of, the hardware technology, battery storage and things like that, which, again, we're heavily invested in.
Yes, and you have the various possibilities, for example, certain kind of backup generators and UPS devices and that kind of things. And I think that what is also important is to increase the mutual understanding. So what are the possibilities and what are the limits to support the system? For example, now from Fingrid side, so we have been running a dialogue with the data center operators in Finland, so to learn more and to see where are the possibilities for flexibility and, for example, whether there would be shortage of power. So what would be the models for that kind of situations? And of course, as the system, electricity system is changing, so I think that it's also very important from the society perspective to see, and also from the incentives given by legislation. So how to develop the whole system. So as we see from Fingrid side, so we need in the evolving system, more that kind of capacity from the generation side that is weatherproof and that can provide energy And it looks like at the moment that the current market model doesn't sufficiently support that kind of development. And then some kind of measures need to be taken.
Yeah.
And we are looking this from our perspective as the system operator, because we need to balance the system and keep it safe in all the various operational modes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the great news is there's a lot of work happening across the EU on grids reform and on clean energy. And as you say, there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of improving long-term planning, in terms of connection queues, in terms of deploying grid-enhancing technologies and technologies such as AI that can help in this space. And there's a lot of work happening, which is really exciting. And to say, from a Google perspective, it's something we're very vocal about. We have a lot of experience in this space, but it is very much a partnership approach. How do we work with local grid operators, others, and others? Because again, data centers is just one part of this complex ecosystem.
And you mentioned Asta the legislation, and in Ficom our work is to make the business environment for our companies better and easier. And one of the obstacles in the legislation is that when they get the license to build the data center, for example, they would need first to have a license from Fingrid or approval from Fingrid to be able to build in that spot.
So
they're a little bit like, yes, it's a little bit egg or hen. Sort of, can I say that? Is that the...
we would say chicken or egg.
Chicken or egg situation that you need either of those license first, and then when you get the one, you would actually need to have the other one already. And that's one of the obstacles that we have been discussing in business branch and also working for the environment. This kind of obstacles we need to be able to tackle in this country just to make it more smooth.
Mm. Yes, I understand. So in Finland, we see really a lot of interest for connections. So connections for consumption. So the inquiries currently amount to a bit more than 70 gigawatts, whereas the peak consumption is 15.5. So 4 to 5 times the current peak. Of course, not all those will be realized or be put in practice. Nearly half of those are from data centers, so that shows that there is a lot of interest and there are these certain advantages. Yep. I think that we share those with our Nordic neighbors, but I think that Finland may have some advantages still over them. I think that the time to power or time to market is one of them, and that is why we are really working hard currently with our investment program and making the connections possible, and also trying to find the places where it's possible to connect relatively rapidly, so where there is room in the grid.
Yes, I think it's very common knowledge that we have a very strong grid in Finland because of the old industry that we had, the forest industry in certain parts of Finland. So, which is now unfortunately coming down, but then at least we have a very good grid.
Yes, that is one part of the reason. So the other one I would say is that during the years that Fingrid has existed, so we have had a very, I would say, coherent investment program. So we haven't stopped investing in the grid. We have kept it in good shape. So we have continued maintenance. We have kept developing the grid. And of course, there have been now big changes in the system. So how the generation is located. So it's mainly on the western part of Finland. So there is both wind and nuclear. So when there is no wind, so the electricity is coming from the north, where we have strong connections with Sweden. Consumption is concentrated on the south. So we have long distances to transport electricity. So we need to strengthen the grid. But I think that this is a common problem everywhere when looking at other countries, whether it's Sweden, whether it's Germany. So many countries face the same challenge.
And you're absolutely right. The grids were never designed for the modern infrastructure we need today. And so there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I mean, as you said, Finland's been a key home for us in Google. The grid is a key part of that. We've been able to bring our own investments, as I mentioned earlier, 446 megawatts worth of additional clean wind to the grid. But very much thanks to the work Fingrid and others have done over many years to come up with a reliable grid to be able to bring that connectivity. And when we can have that reliable grid, predictability, the energy generation, we can bring investment. I mean, at Google's, we've been investing here since 2009, 4.5 billion investment into the country.
It's huge.
We're the largest inward investor into the country. And as I say, because of the environment, because of the grid here, it's an area, it allows us to invest and allows us to bring those wider benefits in terms of jobs and the other economic benefits that we can bring.
But I really like, Asta, that message that you have, that it's not only the grid that we had, but also the way we have been keeping it up. It's another example of probably just, flattering ourselves here a little bit, that we are very pragmatic here in Finland.
That is true, yes. And we are very proud of it. So currently we have this 5.2 billion investment program for the next 10 years, and that is based on our forecast regarding the growth in consumption and also generation and how they are located. So we have a kind of forward-looking approach because we know that the lead times are very long. So it takes approximately 7 to 8 years to build a main power line. Of course, we try to do it as efficient as possible, but there's certain steps that we just cannot, ignore. So there are the environmental evaluations,
exactly.
various expropriation license procedures, then the planning and the building itself. It takes normally 2 winters because we try to make as small negative effect on the nature as possible, because when the land is frozen, so it's then easier to operate with the heavy machines and not to leave any big, marks there. So that
and
is
the birds are not nesting and this.
That is also very relevant because that reduces the time of the year when we can do the construction work.
It's very much the same approach we have, which is how do we drive the business, how do we increase our infrastructure, but how do we make sure we're doing that in a way which is reduces our footprint, and how do we do things that can have a positive benefit. So our data center in EMEA, we generates heat. We use some of that heat for ourselves, but actually we now give that heat to the local district heating network. It covers about 80% of their needs. And because of the work we've done on clean energy, it's 98% carbon free. So actually we can give back to the system.
How the community is benefiting.
Helps community, but it also helps, as I say, with demand and the overall sort of stresses on the grid. So again, back to my point around how do we be a good grid citizen? Yeah. We just don't want to show up and sort of be a taker. We want to be a contributor as well.
Yeah. But
about this use of waste heat. So I think that it's really a good example of sector integration. But what is more is that this is something that is possible in the countries where there is a district heating network. Yeah. So that used to be one of the strengths of Finland, that we had CHP plants and good district heating networks. Now that what we see is that the traditional generation capacity is gradually exiting, but we still have the district heating networks in our main populated areas, so in cities and also some smaller communities. And that makes it then possible for these kinds of arrangements, which I think that are really great.
Going back to emissions, Adam.
Yeah.
Give us few examples how Google is helping the other organizations to reduce their emissions.
Okay, let me give you a few examples. So let's start with maybe the energy side of things. So we have a solution called Solar API. So traditionally, when rolling out sort of rooftop solar on homes and residential buildings, a solar company would need to send someone out. They'd need to do a survey. It's not that very accurate. It's quite costly. It's quite slow. We can use our geospatial capability, so satellite imagery, combined with AI to give really accurate information about the size of the roof, the pitch, the amount of light it will receive. So that's allowing solar companies to speed up the deployment of solar far more quickly, far more accurately, and increase generation. We now cover something like 540 million buildings around the world, much of Europe. That's having a really positive impact. If you take a different sector, maybe the transportation sector, so one of my favourite examples is our work with the aviation sector. So flying may not be always the most sustainable form of travel, but sometimes it's the only way you can get around.
And for us Finns, it's very important, of course.
Yeah, and so have you ever seen those thin white clouds behind, thin white lines behind aircraft? Those are called contrails or condensation trails. They actually account for around a third of the emissions from flying, about 35%. So after fuel, they're the next biggest impact area because they lock in heat. Again, we've been using AI and geospatial capabilities to try and figure out when they occur, where they don't occur. This has been tested in the real world across many flights, and we've been able to reduce contrail formation by 62%. So a huge impact, and we're now working with air traffic controllers such as Eurocontrol, who operate much of the airspace in Europe, to help deploy this technology, again, having a real world impact. But these technologies are not just about sort of big organizations and governments, they're about how do we help individuals as well. So if you've ever used Google Maps and you're driving somewhere, you might see a little green leaf. We use AI to quickly calculate the most fuel efficient route if it's not already your fastest route. So it might say, hey, take this route, it's a couple of minutes slower, but it will save you 15% in fuel. In 2024, that helped save 2.6 million tonnes worth of GHG emissions. So, it's using this technology to help make decisions which can have a really big impact, both in terms of saving money, but also having a positive impact for the planet.
Sounds very interesting. And it seems that you would have many other examples as well. We only had the whole
we
day.
We could go on for a long, long time. No, I think we're really excited. And what's great is it's not just about the promise. It's not that actually we think this technology. These are technologies which can have a real impact today. As I say, whether that's reducing emissions, whether it's helping organisations source more sustainable commodities, avoid deforestation, and whether it's helping to deal with a changing planet. We're increasingly seeing natural disasters, both in terms of frequency and the impact they're having. That's a real impact on livelihoods, on infrastructure. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're using AI to predict riverine flooding. We're using AI to look at where a wildfire is occurring, what are the boundaries, and how can people avoid those. So, again, these are things which have really impact on livelihoods.
As mentioned already, I like numbers and also these exact measurements. About the PUE.
Yes.
PUE.
Yeah.
How would you... It's very important for the energy efficiency measurement. How would you explain it for the listeners?
Yeah, so PUE, power usage effectiveness, is really the sort of industry measurement for how efficient your data center is in terms of you've got the power to power the servers, the infrastructure, but then you've got the overheads, and you want to reduce that overhead as much as possible. So that's what PUE looks at. So you want to reduce the amount of overhead power, so the power you're using is really powering the servers. So you take your overall consumption and you divide that over how much is using for the servers themselves. It's something we focus on a lot. We have... What's
the average of
so
Google?
The industry average is about 1.58. On average for Google, we're about 1.09. And we publish all of this information at a data center level. So Your viewers and listeners can go on and have a look at different data centers. But on average, we use about 84% less overhead energy than sort of industry average. And again, really proud of our data center here in Finland, in EMEA. It's about 1.10 PUE, so it's one of our lowest. And again, that's in part because of the work we're able to do in terms of efficiency. We use seawater to cool our data center. So that's a really efficient way of cooling our data center. So yeah, it's all part of that
data. It's exact data. It's a
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons organizations often come to run on a Google Cloud because we have this efficient infrastructure, the clean energy. Other organizations have their own sustainability goals that they want to achieve. So we can give them all the advantages of Google in terms of our technology and the models that we can bring and the platforms and the data alongside highly efficient, highly clean data centers.
So in short, it's the share of electricity that you are using that goes to providing the services.
Yeah.
So
if you have a PUE of 1, that means all your energy is being used to power your data, your servers versus the overheads, and we want to reduce that overheads as much as possible. And as I say, we've been steadily reducing down, and we're now about sort of 1.09. So.
Yeah. 1.09, that's very good, very good. Before we finish, I would like to ask you both one key message for our listeners. For Adam, what is the most important thing people should understand about the data centers, energy and sustainability? Especially now that AI is growing and AI era is here.
Yeah, I mean, we've covered quite a lot of this. So I think the first thing is it's important to put this in perspective. Data centers are part of that increase in energy demands, but we sit alongside many other demands from industry and what have you. Certainly at Google, we're very focused on driving that efficiency of our data centers. We operate some of the most efficient data centers in the world. And we're making sure and looking to power that through clean energy. So we're really looking to make sure we minimize the footprint of our infrastructure. At the same time, the benefits that data centers and AI bring in terms of driving the economy, in terms of competitiveness, in terms of the scientific breakthroughs that they're driving, whether it's on the sustainability side, which we've covered quite a lot, but in terms of education, in terms of drug breakthroughs. So there's a huge opportunity that AI is already bringing and will continue to bring. So it's a really exciting era. We want to make sure we can enable everyone to benefit from this technology. At the same time, we're really focused on reducing our footprint.
And the same for the Fingrid. What's your key message from the electricity system point of view?
So the name of our new strategy is Growth with Electricity. And what we aim at, our vision is that the Finnish electricity system is reliable and it's clean. So we are almost there. You said that you like numbers. So our reliability indicator for the transportation of the electricity and for the system is currently 99.99995. So there are so many number nines.
Yes.
And the cleanliness, I already said that last year 96% of the Finnish generation capacity was CO2 free. And we also want that the Finnish system is the most competitive in Europe. And I think that we have really good elements for that. And that provides then the good basis for the new investments, whether it's data centers, whether it's other industrial investments, whether it's cleaning the transportation. So I think that we have really the excellent elements for those.
I think both of you, now talking about the Google and Fingrid, are doing great work for the future visions that we've heard here as well. Thank you very much, Adam Elman and Asta Sihvonen-Punkka, for this very interesting discussion. The key message of this episode is that data centers and AI are not only a challenge in the energy discussion, they can also be part of the solution. If growth is built in energy efficiency, clean electricity, smart operations, and close cooperation. Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you are interested in the digital sector, please visit our website. You can also follow us on social media.